Welcome everyone to this third interactive session on career guidance. Today we are going to see a very different profession from what we saw last week, and there are more to follow. Again, we'll follow the same format where if you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to write your name in the chat box and I can call out your name, or just write the entire question in the chat box as and when you get one, and I will read it out to the speaker. So with that, we are going to learn more about a very different profession today, which is architecture. And it's often known that architecture is a profession that leaves its footprints in the city, as I mentioned in the introductory slide. And with that, I would like to welcome a professional architect, Ms. Saee Rohankar, who is based out of Pune, and she has her own firm called SK and Associates. And so she'll be telling us more about architecture, different career options like scope of architecture, etc. So welcome, Saee, and thanks for joining us. I think you're on mute.
Hello. Yeah. Hi. I am architect Saee Rohankar. I've done my bachelor's in architecture from Dr. B.N. College of Architecture, and it's been 3 years now that I've been being an entrepreneur. So, okay, and it's good to be here.
Yeah. So I'm sure, like everyone, I am personally very excited to learn more about architecture because it's a very niche profession, and we don't know a lot about it before we make a career choice. So I'm sure you'll provide us a lot of valuable insights into it. Before we just go deeper into knowing more about architecture, could you, like, in very broad or very simple terms, describe what is architecture? What does an architect do?
Okay, so architecture is basically, you can say, art and science of designing buildings and, of course, other physical structures. And it takes in account all the aesthetical and practical aspects around it. So, yeah, that's how I could put it
Yeah.
in simple terms.
So designing buildings, and for I think for that matter, any structures, right? Not specifically buildings.
Yeah, any physical structures. Yeah,
And
not
it is
just buildings.
art and some amount of aesthetics.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's indoor, outdoor, it's an open space, it's an enclosed space, everything and anything, a built mass that you can see comes under architecture.
How did you get into this field? What was your motivation when you were thinking of making a career choice? I'm sure you're enjoying your profession, doing great. How did you get into it?
Okay, so at a very young age, I had a lot of influences in my family. Like I have my aunt who is an architect, and then my elder sister, is an architect. So that actually helped me to get interested in this particular field. But other than that, I was very much interested into the artistic part of it as well. Like I was interested in design. I was curious about the whole field, and then I knew a little bit of sketching too. So I thought maybe we can explore this field probably. And I knew a bit of what goes into it as well because of the background. But yeah, I think that's why I opted it. But I think it's a totally different thing once you are into it. Instead, like you can't just look at it from the outside and comment like, oh, this could be this type of field or that type. It's a totally different field. So I think it's all a new experience once you
Yeah,
get into
by the
it.
end of this session, we'll get to know more about the field from you.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
I'm curious to know, once you go into an architectural college, right? We'll be talking about colleges later, but once you get into any architectural college for that matter, what is the curriculum in an architectural course? Like, it's like maybe 4 years or 5 years. What can one expect in architecture college? What do you learn in the architecture college?
See, in an architecture college, I think uh, it's not like they don't necessarily teach you. Uh, it's from like basic designing that you know to like actually designing a complete mass or a complete building. So they actually work with all your, you can say, creative thinking, then your perceptual skills. They tell you how to, like we like teamwork management. They also teach you of course computer modeling and stuff, because that is the future now. So
So
that, then there is
do you have like
yeah.
textbooks? You don't have any textbooks, or it's like more of perception and aesthetics that they teach you? Because I'm sure
Yeah,
aesthetic is nothing which is, I don't think you'll find it in any textbook. Uh,
no, there is no particular textbook for architecture, like this book you study and you know the subject properly. It's not like that. It works with how you like deal with that particular subject or design on a whole, and it's more of what you take in than, I think, just reading books or just like, those could be, of course, books help you. There are a lot of books, but there's no specific textbook that will
so what
actually like
did
guide
you
you.
learn in your architectural college? Briefly, can you describe in very simple terms? What did you learn? You're talking about aesthetics and perception. Uh,
Yeah.
Elaborate a bit on that, if you can.
Okay, so if I tell you like a few subjects, if I could mention,
Yeah.
so there are a few subjects called like the basic design visual arts, which will actually help you to know about what is design on a whole. Like, see, okay, so keeping design as the broader aspect, architecture comes like there are a lot of points that come under design. So architecture is a part of design that you learn. Uh, of course, there are a lot of different parts of design as well. Like if I could put through, it's like interior design, there's product design, there's industrial design, textile, there is like automobile design, fashion design. There's so many design aspects that are, and you can choose that as a career option in a different thing. But architecture on a whole is a totally different field than any other design like, subject. So I think under architecture, it's all about more about building masses and physical structures and going around, understanding what exactly is around you. So it's not just, it actually deals with the aesthetic approach and the functions of the building. And when you club them together, then you can design it with your approach. So they teach you about constructions, they teach you about the technology that it is currently used or maybe was in the past. So it's all about history as well. Then they teach you about cost, and they teach you about surroundings, aesthetics, materials. So there are a lot of things that goes under it. Also, they teach you about the design fundamentals and the theory of structures. Then so the mechanic, applied mechanics, then there is sound and acoustics that goes under it. So there are a lot of subjects when you talk about architecture. I can't actually describe everything as a whole, but there are a lot of like minute details about what goes into architecture, which I just summed up. Yeah, I don't think there are.
So it is for, as far as I understand it, you have to
Yeah,
build or you have to design and build like a building or a house. So anything that goes into, and everything which is related, all aspects related to that building is what you learn in architecture. Maybe design. How does the climatic conditions affect it? How does the
right.
uh,
Mass, the volume.
material will affect the design? Um,
Yeah.
Will the building collapse or
Yeah.
no? Maybe also that you can go
Yeah,
and
that too.
talk about.
That's what goes under the theory of structures part of it, like
Okay,
the construction that goes. Yeah,
sure. Uh,
yeah,
so once you become an architect, like once you go into into an architectural college, what are some of the specializations that you can pursue, or an architect can pursue? I'm sure, like when you do a B.Arch, you
yeah,
learn about everything in general, right? Like things that you have mentioned now, maybe design or climate or surroundings. Are
yeah.
there any specializations that you can pursue? Can architect be specialized in something?
If you're talking about like bachelor's in architecture course, it totally depends on what interests you, because there are things called like practical training and your research part that goes in the last 2 years, if I could say. So you actually go through the process in the first 3 4 years about the things that I said before,
Yeah.
and then in the final years you can just apply all the knowledge that you have had like in the past years, and you have your thesis and you have your personal training, uh, and everything you can club into your final research project. So I think during that time you can actually decide what you like or what you can get into, or and then you can design your project. That will actually, I think, that is the only thing that could. Like,
What are those different
sorry.
fields? Like, what are those different specializations one can pursue?
There's no specialization as such, but there are elective courses which could help you to know. So there's like product design, there's furniture design, there's architectural journalism that you can choose, there is disaster management, green buildings. So all of these come under the electives that are being taught now. So you can actually select those if you are into something. And during your master's program, if you're selecting any after your B.Arch, you can actually use that and incorporate in your, probably in your master's or maybe in your job profile if you want to get a job later on or something like that.
So you can pursue your master's in that specialization, and for the final year,
Yeah,
the arch of those 4 years of bachelor's degree, for the final year, you learn a couple of subjects more which you're interested in, and there are a
right.
huge
Yeah,
bunch of subjects that you can choose from,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Once you become an architect, I'm just curious to know, you have your own firm now in Pune.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, what are some of the other job roles that uh, an architect pursues typically? Maybe your friends or your seniors, what have they gone into? I'm sure everyone does not have their own firm, right? Like,
No, it is actually your choice. The way I look at it, it could be like if you want to do and get into a like good job, you can go for a good firm. You can go for a like can say multinational companies who can hire. There are architecture firms, there are builder firms, and then there are government authority who works into the civil and architecture part of it. So you can get into those. Or then there are other aspects as well. If you think about master programs, or probably just jobs, or um,
so you can go,
like as a future prospect, you can actually think about other things. Like you can go into design if you want. You can go for town planning if you want. So
so you
there
mean
are
you
a lot of
have
like,
your government job, or you can take up a job in a company, a private company, or you can have your own
yeah,
startup, or you can have your own firm like you did if you want to be independent and
yeah.
practice.
See, there are
हाँ
There is no.
itu ada engineer kok antu kira tak kata
Could you please unmute your? Yeah, sorry about that. You can go ahead.
yeah. So, see, when you're in architecture, I told you architecture is a subset of design. So, there are no limited jobs for an architect after he or she has done their PH. So, you can be into architecture itself, you can be into building research, you can be a draftsman, of course, because you're known, like you learn so many softwares throughout. Then there is interior designing, there is like art director, there's contractor, planner, anything that you want to pursue uh, from the knowledge you have gained. Or then you can shift yourself into design related like subjects. Like
Could you
you can
elaborate?
go into textile. Sorry,
Could you elaborate more on those aspects? Like, what can you do
the
exactly?
design one.
Yeah.
You can go into textile designing. There are a lot of things in design that you can pursue. You can I think you can go into industrial design, then textile designing, then there is animation, there is gaming. There are a lot of things once you like you're done B.Arch that you can pursue, but it totally depends on what interested you throughout the course, mainly because they teach you from basics to like the final product that is. But I think if you're really interested in architecture on a whole, then you can probably go into like interiors, landscape, and then of course, but these are the courses that I'm talking about. If you're talking about job profiles, those are the ones that I mentioned before. Like you can work in firms, you can have your own firm, you can work under art directors or probably production design. Then you can think about landscape architects or some other firms that of course like accept the jobs from the particular profile.
Yeah, some of my own colleagues when I was in IIT Kharagpur has a course in architecture, and I saw them like really putting a lot of effort, a lot of hard work,
Yeah.
during their 4 or 5 years of architecture program. What is the kind of lifestyle that an architect has maybe after he graduates or after he or she graduates with a BR? By lifestyle, I mean, what is the kind of job roles, or is there a work-life balance? Do you have like specific job locations that architects are preferred on? And also, like, if you can describe your experience in college, how is it? Is it like too strenuous? Is it light? Just
Uh, right. So, see, architecture is a tough, you can say, profession as well as the course. It demands your presence every time. You have to be there. You have to learn. You have to explore, research. You have to take in and give out whatever you're learning. It is an exhausting process, I could say, because there are like a lot of subjects, and it's not just about like reading out and learning things and then you can just write a paper. In fact, there are very less papers in architecture. You don't have to give a paper always. It's just the technical subjects that you have papers for. So I think I had like 4 papers in college throughout the year, like the final thing. But it's more about your ideas, your perspective about, and that is what is taught in architectural schools.
so
So I
you
think
lifestyle is kind of very strenuous
it
and
is exhausting,
okay.
but I think when you're into it, it is so fun that you are not really exhausted by the thought of it. Like even if there are any college functions and okay, there are site visits, there are college functions, then you have a trip round the year, once a year. So it's the trip as in it's of course part of the curriculum. Like you go there, you study, but I think it's a great experience on a like you can't really say that this is the subject and you learn and you'll go ahead in next class. So it's like you have to explore, you have to learn. That is exhausting, of course, but the process is really interesting as well. You have nights like sleepless nights in colleges, but you're with people around you who are actually like-minded, because once you're into architecture, everybody is into architecture, everybody wants to do design, everybody wants to be unique. So the environment that is created is really I could say really fun in a way. So you can design, you can relate to people who know what you are going through during the design process or what creativity is and all of it.
So
So I
sadly,
don't think,
very unfortunately,
yeah.
contrast that typically in engineering college, people usually lose out interest after the first year. So, you know,
Okay.
in contrast to what you have told me in
Right.
architecture, the environment is kind of vibrant and everyone is interested into
Yeah.
architecture. Everyone wants to create their own something new, be unique.
Yeah.
This is something
Yeah.
typically that we miss out in engineering. People enter
Right.
into say a mining engineering, and then within a couple of semesters they lose out on interest and try to look for other options. So I think that is something which is a very positive point about going to an architecture college. Certainly, if you're
Yeah.
interested in architecture. Uh,
Yeah.
if you want to touch upon what are like the monetary rewards, briefly, not exactly, maybe do not,
Yeah.
if you don't want to mention the figures, but of course, roughly, could you give an idea about how an architect earns and what is the college fees like, if you may?
Okay. So I would say I think the college fees would actually, I could give you a margin. Like I think it's from like 3.5 to I think 8 or 10 lakhs in for 5 years. Like I'm talking for 5-year course. It could be from 3.5 to like 10 lakhs, you can say, depending on what college you're getting into.
Sure. So
Yeah.
private would
So
be a
it's not,
expensive, but public universities would be slightly less.
yeah,
Fees would be low.
yeah, but I think, yeah, but I think there are some private institutions as well which actually are okay with uh,
The fees.
their fees are not that high, but it depends on, yeah, but it depends on which college you get into and what you want to
What about after you graduate?
go in for. And if you're talking about, okay, so, so after I graduate, it's not like we have any kind of placements, like we have like not had any kind of placements in the past, but I think there are a few colleges who provide placements now, but it's just for the MNCs and multinationals. So every time you like become an architect, you have to actually register under Council of Architecture, and then you are like a certified architect, and then you have to have a particular work experience to get into particular fields, particular firms. Sorry. So if I have to apply for an MNC and I am just passed out, so my monetary rewards are not that well, and I have to make my portfolio, what I done throughout my, what I have done in my college, and all of it, and take it to them, and they could just give me a job or something. So that way, you have to like earn your um,
Reputation.
like place in the market, you can say.
Okay.
So I think that part is a bit difficult, but once you're in, like, you have a good experience, you're good at what you're doing, and you just know what's going on there, out there. You're like really into your field and stuff. So I think that could make this process a bit faster. But yeah, it is a bit tough when you're just like got out of college and looking for a job. It is a bit like not so this thing. But I think after 5 years or something,
Not so
you
attractive.
really like earn a place and you can go forward with.
So
Mhm.
like just after you graduate, it's not so well in terms of incentives and rewards. But again, you need to build your profile, work hard, take projects
Yeah,
on,
yeah.
join some
See,
startups.
okay, to just sum it up in one thing, design is a difficult thing. Nobody is actually, it can't be like you will understand what I am designing. It's a perspective.
Yeah.
Like everybody has their own point of view. Design is that way. So to explain or to put yourself out there, you will need to prove what
Hmm.
you're doing is actually a good thing for. So that is why I think this process is a bit tiring. But if somebody loves creativity, I think this is fun for them, especially. So
Okay.
yeah,
So you need to somehow, prove yourself and show that you are a good designer, you are a good artist, or you are a good architect. And then the companies
yeah,
kind of look for you and hire you, and then they may increase your
yeah. So
stuff like that.
right, you have to build a profile basically, and
And that takes how
that's
many
what
years?
goes around. I think after 5 years, if you're continuously in a particular field, I think 5 years is a good, like,
Good
I think it's a good
period.
time, yeah, to actually, you know, I think by that time you have learned what goes around into your field, and you know the rules, regulations, and all of it that you have to, read through and go through in whichever city you're in, and then you can actually go and explore
Okay.
that way.
So you mentioned every architect after he becomes or after he graduates with a B.Arch degree, he has to register himself or herself with something called Council of Architectures.
Architecture, yeah. There's
Okay.
a council of architecture under which you have to register yourself,
Hmm.
and then you have a registration number under which you can continue your
Building a right.
working, and you have to, yeah, and you have to renew that every year so that
Or
you are, yeah, working on field continuously.
Yeah. I see a lot of people, nowadays, changing or renovating their interiors in home and offices.
Yeah.
So I'm sure like there's a lot of scope currently for architects and other designers. How do you think the field will evolve in the next 5 to 10 years down the line? Are there any challenges that you see in the near future?
I think there are because see, people now know the value of design, if I could say that, because previously it was not like that. Previously it was a totally different, you know, people had this, what could I say?
Conceptions, which I can, which is
Yeah, they have this concept that every engineer and architect is the same, every civil engineer is the same, every designer and architect, and like, everybody is one person and they can do everything. That is what they have had in mind, yeah, previously. But now they know that there are very small things that you take in account nowadays, because it's like everybody's working out. You talked about interiors, I'm mentioning that everybody's working out, everybody wants an environment where they can sit and work for hours, and as well as they want an environment where they can go back and be at peace. So it's like and they don't have the time to do that for themselves. Like, I can't go to my office and design my office, and I can go home and design my home. It's a like tedious process. So then they know what a designer does, or what the value of a designer is that way. So I think because of that, this has been changing a lot. This in the interior designing industry has been changing a lot.
what
Then
about
about architecture, yeah, if you talk about architecture, people are thinking like they are more concerned about how the building would be built and how it will look later on. It's just not four rooms anymore. It is a place where you can, live in, create the atmosphere. And then if you go higher, like towards your own houses, bungalows, and huge buildings, everybody wants a good place to live in. Or if you say commercial buildings, a good place in the society where you can go, in the surroundings should be good, how you can balance, how you can incorporate all ideas in one. I think people are understanding that, like, because that is important. So I think because of that, the scope is widening day by day. Also, the technology is being developed in so many ways. Like, I recently, so I recently had a like conversation with my aunt. So she was telling me that she's having a building in Mumbai now, which had like 100 car parking, and all the 100 cars are parked with like a mechanical lift. So there is no like there'll be no big ground or lobby or porch area that you'll have to fill with cars, and no basements. So it's like behind the house, you're parking your car on the 28th floor, which is a new thing. So as the technology is developing, I think the scope is widening. So you get more, not only about architecture, you get more into about engineering. So there's a thing called architecture engineering as well. That's another field that is formed because of that. So you can get into that and learn more about that if you're interested in,
what
of
does
course, that particular course.
right now?
So I think this helps
What does
somewhat
what does the
um,
engineering?
to, like widening the scope of architecture on a whole. Also landscape, I don't think people were more interested about knowing about what goes around in the surroundings previously, but now you can see even roadsides are beautiful. Like, even the paths, walkways, there are cycle tracks, there are walkways, the dividers and roads, even they look good. Even that comes under the similar field.
Sure.
So I think that is what widens once you acknowledge what's around you and what can get better. I think that is, of course, that's why I think it's
Yeah.
a bigger scope now. Yeah.
Yeah. For some who are interested in pursuing architecture abroad, um, maybe after their
Okay.
large degree, could you like talk about some perspective, give us some perspective about scope and opportunities abroad outside India, maybe Europe or Australia or US?
Okay. So I don't have any particular, like, I won't categorize it.
Yeah.
Like when you go to US, you can do this, or when you go to UK, I won't do that. I think studying abroad is a personal choice. If they want to study abroad and work, it's their choice, of course.
uh,
But what I think, okay, it's totally my point of view,
yeah.
but what I think is if you're studying, let's say, a particular field uh, that has prime importance in some other country, and you're going to come back and work in India, of course, the multinationals or the people who are actually working in that level of like
Business.
construction thing, you can actually get into that and then work with them. But on a lower level, if you want to come back and start your own thing, I would suggest it's a good thing if you could do it in your own country, because then you know the rules, regulations. Um, because there are like, uh, I don't know, I think 500 pages books on just rules and regulations of building norms. More, actually. So you should know those too when you're doing, um, on-field jobs. So I think it's a good thing if you go and study and you bring on technologies in India, of course. But if you're thinking of like if you're thinking of, like, for example, if you're doing landscape architecture, you know about landscape, what goes there, but the environmental and climatic conditions change when you're here.
Oh,
So
I
you
see.
can of course adapt, but it takes time to adapt. So that is my perspective. But if anybody wants to go, it's a good thing, of course. If they go learn and they want to come back, they want to bring something good to country, it's fine. And it's not very difficult if you're good at, or if you were good throughout your like course, and there are few exams as per the country. I think you can get into a master's course pretty easily. So I don't think that won't be an issue.
Mhm.
Yeah.
At the start of the talk, you said, when I asked you what got you motivated, you said you were interested in sketching and art. And again, you had a
Yeah.
family background, which influenced your decision. Uh, how would
Yeah.
any general person in the audience know at this stage of their life whether they want to become or whether they will be good or successful architects in the future? Um,
Okay.
like for example,
Um.
do they need to have certain inclinations or interests? I'm sure fascination towards creating something of your own is one interest that you need to have. Do you have to be good at
Okay.
math or do you have to be good at physics, chemistry? How does one make up their mind?
Okay. So I think it's not completely a subject that you need to be good at. Like you don't have to be just good at maths and you can get into just good at physics or something. There are parts of mathematics and physics in it. Like there's, you can say trigonometry. Then there is from physics, if you can say it's. I
Mechanic.
told you there's a subject called theory. Yeah. So mechanics comes under it. Then the tension and whatever goes under physics that comes in it, like, but a part of it. It's not like the whole physics. You will get to, you know you have to be the best in physics and then you can. I think that is a bit of a misconception that you should be good at one particular subject and then you can.
So do you
Even
need,
for that matter, sketching.
yeah.
Yeah, so even for that matter, sketching part of it, if you're really interested in architecture, you can develop a skill, of course, and then you can, because the entrance exams demand sketching, of course, so, and mathematics and physics to a level two. Uh, so I think if you really want to get into a field, you can develop a skill. Of course, that is like human tendency. So
Sure.
if you're really wanting to do architecture and you don't know sketching, you can actually practice. You have like, if you decide in your 11th and 12th standards that you can do, there are classes, there are coaching classes as well. You can learn online. There are so many platforms now that you can like polish your
So you don't
sketching
have to
skills.
be like great in art and sketching and creativity. Even if you want to be an architect,
No,
that's not always the.
no, no,
It's not like if I'm not good in my
no.
creativity, I will not be a good architect. I can of course develop my skills.
Point is, if you're not good at creativity, that is fine, but you should be interested in creativity. Everybody should be interested if they're doing a course. Like, that is what the basic should be. Like if I tell you that sketching is really important in this particular field, and you say I don't know sketching, but when you look at it on a whole, you really like the subject, so you will learn sketching. That is not a problem to get into. And I think there sketching is even taught in college. Like you do live sketching and stuff in college. Or that's a subject, another subject you have in college. So I'm not saying that you should not know and it's fine, but you should be willing to do. Like you should be interested in things when you're approaching a particular thing. So I
Interested
don't think you should be
in creating, interested in design.
not art also, but you should be interested in creating or maybe learning new things or maybe not just, it's not that you should know what Picasso did was excellent, because some people don't understand. So
Sure.
I'm not saying that you need to be professionally into sketching or mathematics or physics, but yeah, they are required in a certain amount. But interest is what, you know, I think makes them want to get into.
One very important point for many in the audience, I feel, and in general,
Yeah.
you don't require heavy math and physics, right? In architecture, like you
No,
don't, not
no,
as
no,
much as you
not at
require in
all.
engineering. You don't require a lot of heavy calculus and
Not at all.
integration, differentiation, maybe basic.
No, I think you just need to know basic trigonometry. There is mensuration. I think that was a subject. So that was a topic in math. That thing. Then there are angles that you need to know. In physics, you should know tension and compression and stuff that you had. That is what helps when in the construction part of it. Of course, like you should know how a building stands, right? Why are there columns and why are there beams and all of it that you'll learn. So that is taught, but you should know basics to, if you have a base, it is well, like you can incorporate it well. So that is fine.
That
I
base,
don't think you need to be.
11th, 12th, or basic 10 standards, or 11th, 12th standard math, okay for
Yeah, yeah,
you don't have to be like super
yeah.
good in math or super good in physics.
No,
Not scoring like
no, I don't think.
100%.
I think the maximum, even in exams, I think the maximum focus is on aptitude, general knowledge, sketching part of it. You have to be like, I think there's 50% of weightage to all the other parts, and then there is the other 50 that goes into sketching, and then aptitude, like basic aptitude, then general knowledge. General knowledge is like architectural general knowledge. Of course, when you're giving an entrance exam, you'll know the subjects, so you'll know the books and
I mean, of course, now that you have brought the point, coming to the entrance exam part of it, if anyone
yeah.
wants to pursue architecture from starting from like now 10th, what is the path that he or she should take in the future? Like, what are some of the exams that one needs to answer? Any resources available out there that you can refer to? Um, Maybe just describe, like, talk about a few good colleges in India. And firstly, like after
Okay.
10, do you go into science or arts to pursue architecture?
Okay.
I would believe art.
I think okay. Okay, I think there's a bit of weightage to physics, chemistry, mathematics to this. So I think there is a field like you can pursue architecture through arts as well. But I think science can, balance out for things for you, because you don't need to, do extra in mathematics and physics and all the subjects that you need while scoring. So
You're a science, right?
I would say, yeah, I would say science is a better way to get through. But
Okay, and you can
if
also
it,
do arts. You can either go through
yeah, yeah,
arts and become an architect.
yeah, but I think some colleges accept, like there is a criteria that the entrance marks are seen, and then your certificates, of course, 12, 10 plus 2 certificates are seen. So it carries a certain amount of weightage as well. So I think certain colleges need the science degrees. Like when you're applying, you should just check with what type of degrees are like accepted in that particular
So
college.
someone who's interested in architecture should decide right up front and kind of choose or see which colleges are good in the country or in the state, and then
Yeah.
make a choice about whether to go for science or arts. But either way, you can become an architect, right? Like you are a science student, I'm sure, and you
Yeah.
can also go to arts and become an architect, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the exams that
Yeah, they can. Okay, so I think there's okay. So there are actually two exams that goes into.
okay.
There is NATA, National Aptitude Test in Architecture,
Hmm.
and the other one is JEE Means,
J
means the second paper. Yeah. So first and second, you can say both of them. So I think um like the entrance for uh, like the JEE one paper one actually helps you to get into all the IIT Roorkee, Kharagpur.
okay.
Uh, I think yeah. So those I think the paper two will help you to get into NITs, and there's a called SPA, which is School of Planning and Architecture, which is actually like the IIT for
Engineering.
IIT, yeah, for architecture,
Yeah,
SPA.
for architecture, yeah, similar to.
Yeah. So JEE main paper two can lead you to NITs and SPAs, and I think the NATA. So you'll have to check about what government colleges and what private colleges have NATA as that, and then of course other exams too. I think some colleges have their personal like private exams going around. So you can apply for those two if you want to get into those colleges. And all of these papers, I think, happen to at least there are two papers in a year, like two exams in a year. So I think,
So you mentioned that in the entrance exam you have something called sketching, an element of sketching or a subject, which engineering aspirants don't have to answer.
yeah,
Like for engineering, it's just math, physics, and chemistry for IDJE. But you said there is an element of sketching.
yeah,
Is there anything else that, so sketching is a part of the exam, right? Like it's one of the subjects that you need to answer.
yeah. For NATA, there's no sketching. It's just basic
I,
physics, maths, chemistry.
sorry.
Then, yeah, there's logical reasoning and there's general aptitude
Okay.
that goes in NATA. Yeah. And for, I think, JEE, you have to have like a bit like you should know perspective drawings and still life drawings and all of that too.
And is it something that is there a coaching institute or coaching institutes which train you for JEE mains in architecture? There are a lot of coaching institutes across the country which train you for IT JEE for engineering. Is there
Yeah,
Are there coaching institutes that train you for architecture, like who develop your skills in sketching and stuff like that?
yeah, of course there are a lot of institutes like I would say there is I if I want you can see a lot of coaching institutes online as well. I don't know about a particular place where you can like go and study for architecture as a whole. Every city or every state has their coaching institutes happening, like having their coaching institute in the city. But I think online also you can find a lot of coaching institutes nowadays. If you can just go through and enter where you can get. I happen to know a few. Wait, I'll just share with you.
Which one did you go to? I'm sure like that you can like those information you can get on the internet, but there are coaching institutes which develop your skills in sketching and quant and logical reasoning apart from
Yeah,
basic physics, math, and chemistry that you require.
yeah,
But the good news is there is not a lot of heavy math and physics involved.
no, no,
Those who are interested, it's more about your sketching and more general aptitude and logical reasoning that you're tested on.
yeah,
Yeah. Coming something that even I have in mind now, lot of misconceptions floating around, and which is maybe some of the reasons why people do not opt for architecture traditionally and even now. They go for engineering or medicine because these are the popular fields and very well known. Uh,
Yeah.
What are some of the misconceptions surrounding architecture? One thing you briefly mentioned during your talk was people confuse architect with a civil engineer, and they
Yeah.
feel that okay, it's one person who is handling everything, but that is not the case, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure, like I have seen some of the courses
No.
in civil engineering, and they are totally different. There are a lot of physics and math involved, but which is not the case for architecture. What is the difference between a civil engineer and an architect? That is the first misconception. Could you like bust that for us?
Right. So, I think the civil engineering part of it is the more technical part of it. Like, it deals with, you can say, all the technical aspects of what goes into construction of a building. Architecture deals with, I think,
Yes.
if I could say, it is actually uh, a, a manipulation, or maybe a creative manipulation of the mass, the volume, the space, then the texture, light, shadow, and the materials that goes into it. And they combine all of this with the function of it, and you put your aesthetics into it. And of course, then all of this gets combined with the realistic elements of that, which is like the cost, construction that is going on, all of it. And then an architect or a designer actually combines all of these and gives it an aesthetic value, often artistic value, and then presents it. The civil engineer part or the job of a civil engineer starts from that point when an architect handovers by doing all this research to him to build the mass that he has designed. So
Ah,
then comes the civil engineer. Yeah.
I see. Why do people not choose
So
architecture then in the country?
I
You
think
had a, had a lot
architecture,
you had a background from your family members, and that's why you
yeah,
considered. Why do people in general not
yeah.
choose architecture?
I think people did not knew architecture as it is. Like now, people know who the architect. If you see a certain building, people don't ask, "कि ये building किसकी है?" Like whose is this? They ask who made this. Like they want to know who the architect of the building is. Previously, it was not like that. Nobody knew what an architect does or what. But now people usually use that term in general for other fields too. For example, like you have to be the architect, or architect is the substitute for idea in other fields.
Oh,
Like if you, yeah. So if you're let's say, if I'm talking about something like who is the architect of say this management paper that you're having, or I don't know, something like that, but the word is used for the person who has the idea, the prime idea of.
sure.
So I think that's why people are recognizing what an architect does nowadays. And i think I think architecture as a field was also very conservative previously, because you just had to have a lot of experience before and then you can enter the field. And that's why the 5 year thing that is happening now. But nowadays it's like more recognized. When I did my architecture, I did it under the name of engineering, and I got a degree of B.Arch, but we used to come under the category of engineering. But I think after my architecture, 2017 or 18, it was changed to architecture from for my institute. Like I don't know about the other places in India,
People are starting to
but
recognize
yeah.
the
So I think,
importance of
yeah,
design,
I think that is what is
importance
helping.
of choosing the right design.
Yeah, so I think that is what is helping people to get into architecture more
Okay.
now.
Do you need to be a professional artist and like extremely good painter to be a good architect? Uh,
No, I don't think so. You need to. I would see the first sentence that I mentioned about architecture was that it is art and science of designing physical structures.
sure.
Both aesthetics and practical factors come into it. So it's just not that you are a painter and you can be an architect. It doesn't work like that way. You have to know the technical and the scientific approach that goes into it as well. So it is, I would say it's a, of course, it's a good thing that you know sketching beforehand, but I wouldn't say that it is only about sketching part of it.
Okay.
So even if you're not a great or a professional artist or something, uh,
You can still
you
be a
can, yeah. And as I said before, yeah. And as I said previously, as I mentioned that if you need to get into the field so much, you develop a skill. Of course, you do
yeah.
later on. So if you need that for entrance exams and so you can get into it. But I think
Sure. I think
that is all.
that was very helpful. Before we wind up for today's session, is there any final piece of advice that you would like to give to people sitting in the audience? Not make it maybe specifically related to architecture, but just in general. I'm sure like a lot of points have been cleared now through your talk. Um, Maybe one
Yeah.
final piece of advice that you would like to like give to the students.
Okay. So I think for architecture or any other field, it is more important that you're really giving your, whole and soul into it, into the particular field.
Yeah,
So I don't have a different like. I think everybody knows that they should give their 100% in whatever they are doing.
yeah,
So there's a thing that my father used to say when I was a child, that he's like, even if you're selling a 2 rupees chocolate and want to be a shopkeeper, be good at it.
got
Like you should be able to sell it, like in the way that it should be, which will help you in future. So it's like that. You just have to be good at something you do, not necessarily architecture, but like anything you like.
yeah.
If you really love it, then you should just do it instead of, changing and giving a thought to other things. Probably it will take time for you to reach where you want to go, but I think not giving up is the factor there. That will help.
Yeah, I think this was a great session. Thank you again for your time and your valuable inputs. I'm sure like people who
Yeah,
are interested in architecture or the art in general can certainly like contact you or reach out to you through my contact.
yeah,
Let
sure.
us like there are a couple of questions in the audience from the audience in the chat, which I can just read it out to you.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
yeah. So Devyanshi asks, were you good at drawing besides anything else um, before before deciding? Or she has
Uh,
another question: do we have to be a good in certain subject? And were you good in drawing?
yeah.
I think is what you want to address.
Okay, so I think I was good at drawing because I was very much interested in all the creative things since my childhood. Like I wanted to give all the exams, like the intermediate and the elementary exams that we had in school for drawing during second, third, fourth standard. I think I was very much interested in that too. I think that actually also helped me to get into this field because I had a background here. And then I was also interested, and I know that I could do this because I was interested into creative aspect of it. So I think, of course, yeah, and I was
But
a bit good at
as you mentioned, you don't have to be good in that. You can develop those
it. You
skills.
don't have to be.
If you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
appreciate design, if you like creating your own things, as I said earlier, like if you want to leave your footprints in the city uh,
yeah,
in which you live or otherwise, I think it's a great profession to.
yeah,
There's another question
yeah.
coming from
But I think
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I would just add to it. Um, See, drawing is something that anybody can do. It's not necessary that you have to be you have to have a perception or something to do know to you for you to know drawing.
Okay.
You can just, there are different aspects to drawing as well. In architecture, it is not about just um, if I see a peacock, I can draw a peacock. If I can draw a peacock, I'm a good artist. Of course, I can't be a good architect for that matter.
Okay.
So being good in drawing is a totally different thing too. So
Okay.
You can
But
just,
you need to
yeah,
understand technicalities like where do I need to place my bed? How will the shadow
yeah,
affect my interior?
right.
What color do I choose
That's what it.
more attractive or something like
Right. So that is, I think it's more about being creative than being artistic. That is what I think. Artistic comes after the creation. So
that? Okay.
that is what I feel. Yeah.
Again, this is a big misconception actually. If I can draw a peacock, doesn't mean I will be like a great architect. And if I can
Yeah.
be a cannot draw a peacock, does not again mean that I won't be a good architect. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. One more question from the audience. We have Sarthak Joshi asking, is it feasible to start a firm of your own firm like without any experience right after graduation? What's your take on that?
Okay. Okay, so after my graduation, you have a 6 months, not 6 months actually, but a 120-day internship thing that goes in your curriculum. So in your fifth year, the first semester is just your internship, which actually gives you a wider uh, perspective about what goes on field and what you were studying. So where you combine that. So if you are really good at that internship part of it and you really get to learn, I think it'll be helpful for you to start your firm earlier and of course after your B.Arch. I personally after my B.Arch did an internship for 6 months, and not an internship. I was a junior architect at a firm for 6 months, and I had an experience of 6 months internship beforehand during my college time, of course. So I wanted to do something that would interest me from the base level. Like I wanted to know what goes into a drawing and gets up. So I had a colleague who was senior to me, and he wanted to start up his own firm. So we in partnership, like the three of us, we actually thought of starting it, and because we wanted to explore. It's a tough job actually if you want to start. Like if I could share an experience, it's like you have 12 projects in a year. You have 12 projects in your hand in a year. And by the end of the year, you're just left with one. So that is the ratio that happens when you're on field too early, which is not a bad thing. That gives you a different experience, of course. But if you're ready to tackle those problems and like stick to your profession, I think that'll help you.
Okay. And as you mentioned, like the first 5 to 7 years would be a more
Yeah.
struggle.
Yeah, 5 to 8 years are you really need to be there. You really need to work hard to prove. So it is what it is. I think.
Yeah. I think those were all the questions in the chat.
Okay.
If anybody has any other question, please feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask. Or we can just
Yeah.
we'll just hang on
Yeah,
a couple of minutes.
just some one small question.
Sure.
At
Yeah.
at what stage or age should one start preparing for NATA? Since it involves elements of sketching, you said general aptitude, logical reasoning. So, at what
Yeah.
age or at what stage should a person start with it, or the child should start?
If you're like focusing on Nata completely, I would say 1 year is more than enough for a person to like know about the subjects and walk through the exam
Okay,
process. But if it's more than that, it's of course better to, get to know the paper more, like the subject more beforehand. So if you want to go for like probably 2 years of experience, 2 years of learning for those subjects, I think that is a good thing.
okay.
So
Thank you,
but 1 year
Saee.
should be,
I think there is one
Yeah.
yeah.
which Aparna ma'am asked for the in the question, but I don't think it's relevant. There's something like Aparna ma'am, you mentioned that you have to prepare for sketching in NATA, and I think Sai mentioned that you don't have sketching element in NATA, right? You have
Okay.
sketching element in J.
That is for JEE mains
Yeah.
part 2.
Yeah,
Oh,
you can actually check out the curriculum once, like on their like on their pages where there was sketching in Nata previously, but it is not there anymore from I think last 2 years. So you can keep
Okay.
checking on their pages what year you have what subjects, and that will be better for it. That'll be better this time. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Saee.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the audience? I think this was great. If there are no questions, I will just hang around for a couple of minutes. If somebody
Sure,
wants
sure.
to ask later, they can just go ahead. Um,
Sure.
if not, we can just end the session. And for those who want to leave, they may. But we'll be hanging around. Sometime. And again, I forgot to mention this. We have another session coming up tomorrow, and again, a totally not a totally different, but like a new profession to learn about and career aspects in that. So tomorrow again at 7 p.m. Indian Standard Time, we'll have a new professional talk about his um, career. I don't want to give out what profession that is, just to keep it a surprise. So I'll see you tomorrow all again at 7 p.m. IST. You might have gone ahead and shared some of your own work that you did in Pune, right? You're muted, I think.
Sorry, yeah. I can share right now if anybody like
Go ahead.
everybody's
For
interested.
those who are in the audience right now, they can just like look at some of your art.
Yeah.
Go
No,
ahead.
I just have a few 3D views of some that are
Go ahead.
that are going on projects, and there are a few completed. I'm just
Sure.
5 or 6 projects if you're interested. Yeah.
You can go ahead and share screen. I've given you access.
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, can you see?
Yep. Looks great. Um, maybe just can
So
go ahead.
1 second. Yeah. So the name of the firm is SK and Associates, and I'm just sharing a few glimpses of what we were doing from the past 3 years. So
Sure.
I'm just sharing the pictures because I don't think
No, I don't
the
think you have
details
to
would be a
just
matter.
yeah, just impress upon.
Okay. So this is actually a bungalow proposal at Baramati that we did. It's a 5 BHK bungalow, and this is just a software view of what it is going to look like for a client.
Interesting.
And this is another for the same client. It's a hotel basically, and he wanted something to try something different. So these are two, what you can say, two options that we were suggesting. For the first one is like a really colonial architecture wise with sloping roofs and stuff. The second one is more of contemporary one. So those two things. This is a different restaurant that we have proposed in Varanasi for like a garden restaurant, a simple.
Huh.
Yeah. Then we did something called, there's a thing called elevation design too that goes like the building is made by the builder and they hire another consultant who does just the elevation of that particular building. So that is what we did in this. This is a Pune. Yeah. This is on the verge of completion. So yeah.
Wow. You're
Yeah.
wonderful.
This is a 3D. This is actually a walkthrough. I just clicked some pictures and posted it here. But this is a walkthrough is basically a video that is made in a software where you can see what the building. looks when you're going into it, around it, and everything. This is what we did for an Ambadevi temple at my hometown in Amravati, and even this is getting constructed right now. So, but
Wonderful.
this is just a walkthrough that we did. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Then there's this restaurant called Neer in Pune, Wakad, that we did, and this is done actually. I can show you the actual pictures. So
And this is like all done, finalized, and you can just
yeah,
go and find there. Okay, wow.
yeah. So this was the like graphical the like views that we did, and this was the and this is the actual restaurant we finished.
Wow. This is great.
Yeah.
So these are all your
This is-
footprints in the city of.
yeah. Yeah, you can actually go to Pune and go to that visit that restaurant, but
But
not for now
if
because
I'm in
of
Pune, I'm
COVID. So
going here for sure.
yeah. Then there's this another bungalow design that we did in Sakode, nearby Pune. This is also complete, and this is how it looks now.
Wow. Oh, this is great.
Yeah,
So
and there are a lot of interior
fascinating.
and other projects.
I think it's very fascinating when you actually see your own design being built and functioning well, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, it is actually a different feeling when you see the complete product because I think it is the only profession that actually shows you the final product. Like,
True. I agree to some extent here.
yeah,
That's great. I really like the
yeah.
interiors of
Thank you so much.
the. Yeah.
Thank you.
The
Actually, we did a lot of interiors as well, but they are like small projects, so I did not put it. Like we did for like for a dentist, for a doctor, clinic for a doctor. Then we did interiors for a house, but they don't necessarily want to share the pictures of the
Sure,
interior.
sure.
So
And I think this
that's
is
what I did.
right after like 3 to 4 years of your graduation that you've got
Yeah,
experience. And I'm like
yeah. Now it's
looking at these designs, I'm sure like going forward you'll be a wonderful architect or a very accomplished architect.
thank you so much. Yeah,
This is great.
yeah.
You can just hang around for a couple of more minutes. I think there are a lot of people interested in your work, and now that you have shown those images and pictures, even I
Yeah.
kind of regret to some point that I chose engineering. I'm just kidding. I mean, yeah, this was great.
Yeah.
So just for the sake of just for the audience, Saee is now moving to Germany, and she's learning more about the German, aspect of architecture. So we wish her
Yeah.
really all the best for her future endeavors.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. And if anybody has questions or are interested to know more about a field or more in architecture, which is it's great that it's picking up, and
Yeah.
we have kind of we have busted a lot of myths uh, surrounding architecture. I'm sure like people will reach out to you, or they can reach out to me, and I can like forward their contact to you.
Sure, sure.
Okay.
Anytime. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time once again. Think I'll just like close the meeting
Thank you so
like
much.
2 to 3 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
I asked this to you yesterday also. Like in Neer restaurant, Like the restaurant that you designed in Pune, do you get like free food when you go there? Because
Okay. If you did a good job, then you will.
you-
But if the client loves it and the brief goes right, it's all good.
yeah,
But
wonderful.
yeah, if you mess up in places, then you might not.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Please do, like, I'm sure people who go to Pune should go and check out Neer restaurant.
Yeah, please do. If but I don't know what, I think because of the lockdown it's shut down or something for now. Don't go in the lockdown. But if you get a chance, just look around.